All right, my friends. Snazaroo. We've made it. So, in this video, we're going to talk about the astrology around this upcoming new moon in Scorpio. And it's going to be a starting point for me to just communicate some things I'm feeling about the energy of the collective right now. So I'm sure we can all feel this tension that's been building for a while now. That is Mars and Pluto opposition. And this is the energy kind of around this election and this tense, volatile, combative energy that is prone to dualistic thinking patterns, like black and white thinking, us and them sort of mentality. And we don't necessarily need astrology to see that there's a lot of tension in the air right now. And there is an increase in these tendencies. And so I want to say that there might be a lot of things happening right now in the world that it can make us feel powerless on some level. Like, I'm only one person. What can I do to change these really big problems that feel so much bigger than myself? And what I'll say, and something that astrology shows, is the microcosm within the macrocosm. So how the planets are configured mirrors the way that things are playing out here. Things on your individual life could be a smaller scale of what's happening on the collective. So you could say that the only thing you really have control of is yourself, your own life, your own reactions, really. The work here is to really see what ways have you been caught in this type of thinking pattern where it's like all or nothing, or oh, if I do this, then I'm gonna be like this kind of person. And I guess it's about catching the ways that we are at war within ourselves and how we can make peace. So you could say in the human experience, the most fundamental way that this dualistic energy is expressed is masculine, feminine dynamics. And I do think this comes into play a lot here with Mars being in Cancer. So a masculine energy in this feminine sign, which could bring out some of the darker elements. Like, Mars is not comfortable in this position, and it could be showing wounds around the feminine. And so I'm going to present kind of each side's tendency, dynamic, like as an energy, and not necessarily as like as a person, but as a collective. And I think there are ways that we can find this happening within ourselves. So this is a lot about the fight response, which is typically more of the way that the masculine deals with conflict. You know, whereas the feminine way might be more like freeze, shut down, flee, flight. So we've developed these ways in which these protective mechanisms serve us. And so the masculine's tendency is towards dominance and perversion. And this can be like kind of the same thing as like this is the masculine's response to feminine power and how he deals with his fear of it to avoid vulnerability. Whereas women can tend towards more being self-sacrificing and manipulation, passive aggressiveness to actually avoid the fight, because it's the way that just we've been taught where we have to be. Okay, so there's kind of this holding pattern where it's like, I'll back down if you back down. No, I'll back down if you back down. But we're being held in place here like neither one of us is willing to make the first move. And so we're kind of stuck in this tension. But with this new moon, we have also a grand water trine with Mars in Cancer, Neptune in Pisces, and Mercury in Scorpio. So all this water signs. And if you look at the chart, it's like this triangle with kind of an arrow going through it. The triangle part of this chart is like the point of emotional release and surrender and catharsis. And if I were to sum up this new moon in one word, it would be catharsis. It's allowing all the pent-up emotion to flow out, getting to a point where you're like, I don't care how I seem or how I look. I am willing to do the hard thing, letting myself be seen, letting myself be vulnerable, because that's the way of healing and that's the way of being loved, like letting those deep parts of you out to receive love. And so for the feminine here, I got this strong message that was that we don't have to abuse our bodies in the way of being a channel for the pain of the collective. We no longer have to use our bodies for that purpose. And we can know that there's a lot of help There's a lot of help in the spirit realms. Right now, the veil is very open. Our ancestors, angels, spirit guides, animal totems, whatever is something that you like to work with as an energy, we're that much closer to it now in this time of late October to early November. So we have all this help. We don't have to keep going as if things aren't going to get done unless we do them in this perfect way. A lot of things are happening that are beyond our vision and awareness, and that we don't need to take on the weight of the world and the responsibility of the world's healing. And not because we're not capable of it, is because if we want to be our strongest, most vital expressions of ourselves, which is what is needed for this transition and moving into the time that is a world that we want to live in, that is heart-led, then we can't burden ourselves with doing it all at once. It's actually critical for us to slow down, for us to listen, for us to pay attention to our bodies, for us to rest. And these are all prominent activities within the New Earth paradigm. And so it's like, stop rushing. We're gonna get to where we're going either way. So I felt this falling away recently of all these modes of resistance to all these ways of being. And I said, what if I just allow whatever is there without having resistance, without wishing differently, but just showing up. Just showing up and doing the work in front of me that needs to be done. And knowing that it's all contributing to a greater whole. Because it matters more how you're doing the things you're doing than what the things that you're doing are. Like, if you are doing things that seem mundane, but you're doing them with love, and you're doing them in pursuit of a higher vision, or maybe just because it's what you have to do right now to make money for the time being, we still have to do that. I love this quote, and I don't know where it's from, but it said, when men can lead with their hearts and women can lead with their wombs, then the world will be at peace. And so the connection of these two energy centers, feeling into that, inhaling into the heart space and exhaling into the womb space. That could be a way of connecting the polarities. And creating this harmony within ourselves of the different aspects and parts of ourselves is really what the work is about, is really what's most important for us to do. Something I hear a lot, and especially with this, like, the Scorpio energy, which is very dramatic, which is like all about this cathartic release. And there can be a lot of like, I'm letting go of the person that I have been, and I'm stepping into my full power as an enlightened goddess. And I love that sentiment, but then there can be also this like, I'm killing this past version of myself, or some part of me is dying. And okay, there's an understanding that death isn't the end. It's part of a cycle of transformation that's always happening. But also the way that our culture has been taught to view death and to say this about a part of yourself can create this exile. So whatever that part that you are letting go of right now, it's probably something to do with an annoying pattern that you can't seem to get over. But what if that was just part of your fearful inner child, and that part needed reassurance and nurturing, and not to be cast out and forgotten. So just something to think about around the language and how we are treating ourselves through the transformation process. I think that a lot of gentleness is always good medicine. And so, just some things to think about. I hope that this spooky season treats you well, that you're blessed and connected, and I don't know, stay spooky or something.